Alright, I am live. So, I will go and start sharing this online. While we are getting started, I will note that I have received my new computer. However, kind of going through some of the software options to have the ability to select multiple cameras, because the intention is to use a webcam and have the ability to switch in and out of different views. Oh, gotta turn the volume down on that one. And welcome to the live stream. Alright, I need to find my share. Got a little less than a minute to go, and we will get this started. Get the live chat scrolled up. Welcome, welcome. Got just a few minutes to go. And I can start to share this live stream. All right, 30 seconds. Let's see if I can share this again onto a different page in a different group. So yeah, things are doing good. All is well in the world. And I will share this in one more place, and then we will get started. Share this with one more group on Facebook. Hopefully we can get some viewers. Yeah. Alright, so here we go. Welcome, welcome, welcome everybody to another Veterans View for You Talk and Tie. We'll see if we can get a little light on the subject, and there we go. That is the fly we are tying tonight. It is a parachute fly, parachute dry fly. It's pretty common for chasing the trout. It's a good fly. It took me a few rounds of practice to get it up to where it is now, experimenting with different material and whatnot. the hook that I'm using tonight is actually pretty interesting. It's a vintage Herter's Parachute Custom Dry Fly hook. It is number 432. It's a size 10, so this is actually a pretty big parachute. So yeah, check it out. If you're just joining me, welcome. We are tying this parachute live. So we'll get the hook and the vise, and I'll just go over the materials as I tie things on and move forward. So hooks and the vise. I'm using a black 6/0 thread. It's pretty tough. Not too big, not too small. And like all good flies, they begin with but a single wrap of thread. We'll get this started here tonight. So I was a little late getting to the fly bunker here tonight. I was outside looking to catch a view of the International Space Station. There is an app for the phone. I don't know the name of the app. Our house guest turned us on to it. So, yeah, I was outside. Unfortunately, things were a little overcast and couldn't see anything, but we'll check this app later on. So for the tail on this fly, I'm just using a black dyed hackle feather, just using the black hackle fibers. Coax them out away off of the stem, get them broken up a little bit, and I'm going to line up a small clump of fibers there. Nothing too much, and a quick yank and pull, and we can get that off of the stem. So it's all about the proportions. We're always chasing the proportion game when we're tying flies. And this one will not be any exception. And I'm going to take this tail out approximately a hook's length and set that on the back side and tie it in. Just a few loose wraps. Work my way towards the rear. And what I'm going to do is a wrap or two underneath the tail to kind of help pull it up a little bit. I worked my thread forward to this. What makes this hook a little unique is it has a post, a part of it, part of the hook. Makes it really sturdy. I have not fished this hook yet. I have not fished this exact configuration, so I'm anxious to give it a try. So to aid our post, I'm using this Ratty Tatty calf tail. It's been picked through pretty good. Got a little, looks like mallard stuck in there. But I need a little bit for a post. It doesn't take much. We'll trim off a little section here. I guess the previous owner of this piece of hide didn't exactly cut it down to the hide. Left a lot of medium-sized scraps. So I'll give that a nice close cut down at the hide. And like any other piece of fur, you always want to strip out the under fur, the protective fur, the down fur, if you will, instead of the downed feathers. And I have a little brush here. I am going to brush this out a little bit just to get things smoothed out. Get these fibers all kind of working together. So yeah, And I'm going to go, I don't know, roughly in the middle of it. Not going to stack. I'm not going to pack anything. Things are going to get trimmed off at the end here. So I'm going to line this up on the side right next to that post. A couple nice tight wraps to lock that in. And I'm going to work the thread towards the bend. A few wraps. And I'm going to trim off the remainder of this calf tail. And I'm going to go at an angle. I want to end up with a slight taper to the body of this fly, this wonderful parachute we're tying tonight. So I'm going to take my thread all the way to the back and work it forward again. Make sure I get all these loose fibers tied in there. I found that when you cut a clump of hair at an angle, it works better to start at the bottom of the ramp of it and then work your way up. So we got that body tied in there pretty nice and tight. But it is what it is. Next step is to get this calf tail, kind of mash it around this post, just so I can get it evenly around all sides of it. And I'm just going to take a few wraps up. The top of the post has an eye on it, like it would be on the front of a hook. And I will just work my way up to that point and work my way back down. Take my thread towards the rear of the hook. And we are going to get our dub on. This dubbing material is a wonderful gift that I received. Came all the way in from the wonderful country of Norway. Yeah, it's essentially it is from what I understand and from what I can tell, it's a blend of a chenille and wool. And in the package, it kind of got a little compressed, a little squished down. So I just took a quick minute and pulsed it and ran it through a coffee grinder that I have specifically for dubbing. So it kind of aerated it, fluffed it out without really chopping it too fine. There are some larger chunks in this that I have to, just be mindful. If you're tying a fly, why not be mindful of it? So if you are just joining me, obviously if you're a fly tyer, you can tell that I am tying a parachute fly. I don't know if it qualifies as a parachute Adams or a parachute Dunn or whatever, but this dubbing that I'm using, it's a kind of a darker olive. I'll get a little wax on the thread, and we will add our dubbing. And when you do your dubbing, you want to start off sparse. Eventually you'll get to a point where you get a good feel of how much material, and 9 times out of 10 less is going to be more. Shorten up my thread a little bit, and when I do my dubbing, I start at the hook point until I get the dubbing to start touching the body. That way I don't get any excessive bulk or buildup alongside of the application. So looks like I nailed that one just right. I ended up right at the post. And preparing my next 2 feathers, I'm going to tie in the parachute feathers. I have this nice, what is this? It's a Metz cape, I believe. And I do not want too large, but I don't want it too small. So I'm just going to come in here towards the top of it and pluck one of those out. Set that off to the side and get my other color hackle fiber out, feather out. This one's kind of been picked through a little bit more excessively, and they do come out a little bit longer or wider in comparison to their overall length. And I want these to come close to matching. So that looks like it'll be close. What I'm going to end up doing here is I'm going to line up the tips. That way when I'm working with them, I know the tips are even, the butts will be even, and I'll just work with them both at the same time. The white one's going to be a little bit, fibers are going to come out a little bit shorter than the brown ones, but I'm just going to go ahead and trim that off right away, get that down fiber off. I'm going to splay these fibers out a little bit and trim some off of the butt end there. And on the front here, lock those in on the front side by the eye of the hook. I really want to make sure those are locked down nice and tight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take these up, and I am going to tie these hackle fibers up the post. Because when I palmer them on to make the parachute, I will work them down to where my thread is. Alright, so those are locked in where they need to be, nice and tight. Looks like we got a third watcher. Welcome to my live stream, Veterans View for you. We're tying a parachute. I'm getting to the head. Just going to add a little bit more dubbing wax and a little bit more dubbing. This is, once again, it's a chenille, I believe it's a chenille and wool blend. I don't know, I could be completely wrong. I could be using, this could be completely inappropriate for a dry fly. I don't know how its water retention or water resistance behavior is going to be on this. So, like everything else I tie, it's all new to me. It's an experiment. It's something fun to work with. So, alright, so I just got a few wraps there around the front head. And for the final piece of the puzzle here, we will grab these tips and we will palmer these on. And I really like the look of the kind of a brownish ginger and the white. I think the color combination is just absolutely fantastic. So, looks like my hackle pliers released. I might have to do these one at a time, because if you don't get the tension even on both hackles, things can get a little interesting, especially towards the end. I think that's turning out absolutely beautiful. So my last wrap here, I don't want to overdo it. I can take my hackle and I can pull straight down on it and lock that in this way, and just kind of coax that thread up and around the other fibers. Release my hackle pliers, and I'm going to get right up in here and give this a nice close trim. Cut off the tips of the hackles, come up on top for the post, and that looks fairly decent. proportion wise compared to the ones that I've seen at the shop. And to finish things off, I will just do a basic whip finish, and I'm going to whip finish on this post. And I think I might not do this if I did not have the metal hook material for that post underneath. If I did just the calf tail and it was just that tension, I don't know if I would tie it off on the body or if I would want to tie it off on the post. So a little quick snip of the thread, and I do have a little spot to access my thread where I did my whip finish, and I am not able to locate my secret sauce, at least the runny bottle. I have a couple stages of good old Sally Hansen's. This isn't the Hard as Nails. Yeah, I guess it is. Advanced Hard as Nails Strengthening Top Coat. But I am going to just get a little droplet of head cement on there, and I'm going to get underneath and just get a little bit where that thread is. Let that thread really soak that in. And we are good to go. That, ladies and gentlemen, was a basic parachute. I have recorded and the final steps of production for the fast forward version of this fly. Hope everybody is enjoying my fast forward playlist. If you're on YouTube, after this video, be sure to check out my fast forward video playlist, and there's archives of all my previous talk and ties. So if you are watching out there, check those out. Also, do me a favor, hit that share button. Get the word out that Veterans View for You is streaming live. Get the word out. This is just something fun. So yeah, we'll tie another one up. I'm gonna get a few more in the box. Good to have a few backups, a few spares. I guess you can never have too many flies in the box. No such thing. I'm curious as to who's watching. I always, from my view, it just says that I have one person watching the stream. The analytical data associated with the Veterans View for You YouTube page is pretty neat. Identifying viewership from countries other than my own. Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Asia, South America. Things are picking up. Maybe someday I will reach the magic number of 100,000 subscribers. Not going to hold my breath on that, but I think it would be pretty cool to get the golden play button or silver play button. So, taking a look at this hook and how it's bent, where the eye would normally be, it bends rearward towards the bend, and then it comes up and forms the post. You can tell that what we would normally identify as the eye of the hook is actually the top of the post. After doing some research, I guess one of the selling points is that if you tie into the eye at the top of the post, then your tippet will not necessarily find itself in the water in the immediate area of the fly. So instead of sitting along with the water going to your fly rod, it actually starts out, let me get the bodkin in there, up here, and then it slowly, I guess it would curve down until it makes contact with the water surface. So let's tie another parachute. Once again, this is a Herder's parachute custom dry fly, hand tempered, so it must have been some pretty small hands tempering this size 10 hook. Some quality stuff. Got a whole box of these. I'm probably gonna, I don't know, ration them out. I'm not gonna go too bananas with them. They are vintage. They are collector's items, I guess, in some circles. You know, being a Minnesota company, I think it would be pretty neat to tie a really good parachute Adams up, or something that's really high quality. Really take my time and do it right, and submit it to the Minnesota Fishing Museum. What am I doing? I do not want to tie in the calf tail yet. I want to put in the tail of the fly, which is some black hackle fibers, is what I am using for this parachute tonight, today, this morning, depending on where you are joining me from. So I'm just going to strip some of those off of the stem. Got them generally more or less lined up, and I'm going to go about a hook's length. Hook's length for a tail length. Got to get those portions right. Get everything jiving, everything the same. It's all about the presentation. And if you think about, you know, the presentation of the fly for the fish, you know, I don't know. It's one of those things that I'm going to take the time and effort to tie this fly, to catch this creature of beauty and wonder. So I'm not just going to throw it at him or her, throw it at the fish. I'm going to take the time and try to give it a proper presentation. Let's just have a couple stray hackle fibers there. So get that tied in, locked down. I did a couple of wraps underneath to kind of rooster that up. I think looking at the camera, I do need to adjust a little bit. So we'll get that in after I get this calf tail tied down. So once again, I'm just gonna take a small little clump, just enough for that parachute post. Kind of made one a little bit too thick on the pre-runs, learning this pattern, getting the order of operations figured out. Strip the downs out. Hit it with my brush here. This is a neat little brush. It is actually from a hearing aid kit, and it's got a little magnet on there to, I suppose, pull out batteries and whatnot. But in my world, it works out great to work with flies. A little dubbing brush, a little magnet to get the hooks out. Maybe this time instead of on the side, I'm going to split it on both sides of that post. Yeah. Get that locked down nice and tight. Take a few wraps rearward and leave myself a little bit of room to get a decent taper. There we go. That's going to be a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. So I'll get my thread down there in the back. Remember I was saying it kind of works a little bit easier to work your way up the ramp, because you just grab a few fibers at a time opposed to trying to lock everything down at once. So I'm going to take that back, thread wraps back just a little bit more. There we go. I like it. Alright, take this calf tail, we're going to go up the post, and like I was saying, I got that equivalent to the hook eye at the top, so I'll go just shy of that, and then I will work my thread back down. There we go. I got this one hackle fiber. Not so tall now, is he? Alright, 4 people are watching. Welcome, viewers, to another Veterans View for You Talk and Tie. I guess one of the things I can talk about, you know, during the winter months when we're not out in the water fishing, we are busy tying. And I think that if you are an eligible donor, I recommend donating blood. I know I talk a little bit about community service and giving and things of that nature, but to throw my little plug out there, you know, donate wherever you feel comfortable. Personally, I donate with the American Red Cross. I'm a platelet donor. I've done platelets. I do double red cells, which I don't know, you get more bang for your buck, so why not? Takes a little bit longer, a little bit more of a process, but you know, hey, you're saving lives. I'm not a man of money, but I do have blood, and I know that when I donate blood, it can only go one place. You know, you donate $10. Like somebody said, it could be going to buy a ream of paper for the copy machine or cups at the coffee table. I mean, it's all important stuff. You need paper and you need coffee for the cup, or cups for the coffee or whatnot, but saving lives. Alright, here we go. Got the dubbing on. I probably don't have enough for the whole body. We'll see. That might come out alright. I might have to add a little bit more. I think I can. I'm gonna go just one last little bump on there on the rear side. It's a size 10 hook, so why not make it buggy, nice and thick. There we go. Alright, so the body is dubbed down, and we are going to tie in our parachute hackles. Once again, I got this nice Metz hackle. Doesn't take much. One feather will do it. And I have this kind of a brown ginger brown, just like me. Alright, so I got my 2 feathers, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the tips relatively close. And looking at the short one, trim off the downs, coax out those fibers a little bit, and we're going to trim to the left and to the right of that stem, leaving, you guys see how I did that? How I left a wee bit there for the thread, give something the thread to grab onto. And we'll keep it back away from the eye of the hook a little bit. A few turns up front, and then we will continue to tie these in, working our way up the post, and then we will run our thread back down the post. Beautiful. Alright, add a little bit of dubbing for the head. Where's my piece of wax? There we go. So once again, this wonderful dubbing material was a gift from Norway. A little bit of wool, I believe, and a little bit of, looks like shredded chenille. It compresses down really nice. It kind of feels a little oily. I did have to pulse it through the coffee grinder a little bit just to puff it out a little bit from the packaging, shipping and whatnot. So I'm just going to do a little bit more up front. I want a decent sized head, and it's always best to start off with a sparseness, and I think that'll do it. Do one wrap around that post just to kind of get it situated. Yeah. So for those of you who are watching, go ahead and say hi in the chat. I'd like to see who is watching, if you are willing to identify yourself and say hello. This is my weekly Sunday night live stream Talkin' Tie. I'm going to grab both of those hackle feathers at the same time, do a few wraps around that post, and then when I get to this near side, I can pull them down and lock them down that way, so there's plenty of thread holding that down. Alright, get in there with the scissors nice and close, nice close trim. And I think last time I also took this opportunity to trim up the post. And that makes the visibility a little bit easier, and trimming it now makes it a little bit easier to tie. Good evening, Matt. Welcome to another Sunday night Talkin' Tie. I'm doing a parachute here. I don't know if it qualifies as a parachute Adams or a parachute Dunn, or what exactly, what department I'd put it in. But it's a parachute fly, kind of tying as I go. I'm using, I believe it's a chenille and wool blend for the dubbing. So I don't know if you've ever monkeyed around with that as far as material for chenille and dubbing. Kind of wiry, it's really thin, but there are these thicker chunks. I think that might have been from the chenille. I'm using the olive, kind of a dark green color. I do have some other colors. I got this beautiful purple. I got a yellow, a light blue, kind of a sea foam, and this one's actually pretty cool. This one's pretty neat. It's a black, and there's purple flash kind of infused inside of it. So I don't know. It's a neat material. The price was right, as it was a gift, and I'm really looking forward to diving into those bags as my flies come out of my brain. So I got that tied off, I cut off my thread, and I'm going to get in here with a little bit of secret sauce, aka Sally Hansen's. You know, just one little drop on the bodkin, and where I trimmed my thread, I'm just going to get in there and let a little bit of that Sally Hansen's secret sauce, fly tire secret sauce, soak in there. No, Matt, I did not make the dubbing. The dubbing was a gift from Norway. Check out his Facebook group. It's the, I'm going to kill the pronunciation, but it's the Flublonderskolen, which is Norwegian for the fly tying school. Bent is his name. He has a page on Facebook as well. Very kind, very generous. He was asking me about Norwegian partridge and if I ever had any, and I'm like, well, I don't have any of that. Not in Norway. He's a lot closer, so I don't know. I'll probably find something sourced here locally. See if we can't come up with a little trade just to keep things interesting and flowing back and forth. And who knows, maybe someday if I ever take a trip out to Norway, we can cross paths and go catch some fish. I don't know what you fish for in Norway. So, yeah. Anyways, tie another one here. What time is it? We got about 20 minutes for a little allotted hour that I'm going to do here. So once again, these are the Herder's Parachute Custom Dry Flies. Hello, Richard Husingfeld. Welcome to another rendition, another, I keep wanting to say version, another edition of Talk and Tie. Tried to get out and see the International Space Station tonight. That was a no-go. Cloud cover was a little too high. Hey, did they get that that weather camera up and running at the hockey arena yet? That's a question for Richard. He's an avid weather person. And that's another topic of discussion we could talk about here tonight, is weather and fishing and those moon phases. I don't really know too much about it. All I know is there's different moon phases that affect how fish eat, if they're hungry or if they're sleeping or resting. I don't know. You guys tell me. What is it about the moon that affects fishing? How does that work? Are they... I don't know. It's pretty neat though. Alright, so for the tail on this, once again, I'm using just a black dyed hackle feather. I like these. They're nice and webby. I'll line up these tips pretty close and just go for another small chunk. That's a little bit too much. So, there we go. Alright, strip that right on off. And proportion this out to about a hook's length. I don't know. Do you err on the side of a longer fly or a longer tail or a shorter tail? Is it better to have a tail that's too long or too short, proportion-wise? So I'm going to do a couple wraps underneath. Uh-oh. Look what happened. My thread broke off. getting down to the end of the spool here, so who knows? It's an old wooden spool, so I don't know. I'm just gonna assume that this thread has a few decades on me. So I'm just gonna get right here and cast on my thread again. Kind of capture some of that old thread. See if I can't give it a nice pull. Get that locked down again. Work my way back towards the tail here. That happens, folks. Sometimes your thread breaks off. And you just have to roll with it. You just have to roll with it. Oh. Trim off the thread. I am looking at my monitor and I seem to have quite the delay. But we shall see. We shall see how that affects the chat. Alright. Tail is locked down. Time to go for the post. Got this lovely ratty looking calf tail. I wonder, you know, the first fly tyers, you know, and they looking around and they saw this calf tail hanging around wherever it was, and they said, boy, that looks like it would tie a great fly. Alright, clean that out as best as we can. Grab for my little dubbing brush. And there we go. So it's a no-go on the weather camera at the university. I told those knuckleheads, I said, listen guys, you're 1 out of 3 cameras isn't bad, but I demand better. I demand satisfaction. Alright, tie this tail in. This calf tail, couple tight wraps directly behind that post. And we'll do a nice tapered cut towards the bend. Beautiful. That's a little steeper of a shelf than I would like, but I'm going to take my thread towards the back, and then I'm going to work my way up the ramp, capturing all those loose butt ends. Alright, get to the post, going to take my thread and start wrapping it up. And when I tied in the calf tail, I split it on both sides of the post. So I could get a nice even distribution around around the post, just so it's not sticking out on one side or the other. So be sure to hit that share button here for the last little bit of this live stream. Trying to get as much viewership. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. That way you don't miss out on any of the action. A veteran's view for you. So we just had Pearl Harbor Day. It's interesting to follow along with the oldest living survivor of the Pearl Harbor attack. December 7th, 1941. A day that will remain in infamy. So it was interesting. I'm sure for quite some time afterwards. Everybody kind of talked. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know. Kind of like how my generation and nowadays we talk about September 11th, 2001. Everybody seems to remember where they were or what they were doing when those tragic events unfold. And as much as people like to discuss where they were and what they were doing, I like to ask the question, how did you feel immediately after the World Trade Center's towers came crashing down? I mean, it was kind of a sucker punch. I was enlisted in the military at the time, and a lot of uncertainty. So I got one little fuzz in there that I don't like. So we'll see. There we go. See ya. So we'll dub this body on. I'm going to keep it as even as possible. And I've heard that if towards the end of your dubbing process, your dubbing keeps popping off of your thread, that is a clear indication that you are using too much dubbing. Too much dubbing. So back off a little bit. You can always add more. Alright, going to tie in our parachute hackles. I got this kind of a light white. Pluck one of those out. And I was using my hackle ruler gauge, and I got a general sense of where to pluck these guys off the hide, as far as proportion wise. So once again, I will take these tips and I'm going to line them up. These ones are pretty close to the same length, but I'm going to go just above the down fibers, splay these out a little bit, and I'm just going to keep it simple. One cut up on the top, one cut on the bottom, maybe another one. Make that little arrowhead up front. This will give your thread something to cut into, or bite into rather, cut into. So a couple wraps just to get that locked down where the head is going to end up. Nice and tight, and then I'm going to take these hackles and I'm going to pull them straight up. And I'm going to tie these up the post. And it's a little harder to see with the calf tail, but I'll take it right to the bottom of the eye that's on that post and get my thread down towards the bottom again. So I worked the thread up the post and down the post, and I parked the hackle at the top. So when I go to build the parachute, my thread will be where I need it. That's one of the things you always have to consider. You always have to be a step or two or three or four ahead when you are tying flies. You have to think about where you want your material to start, where you want it to end, how you're going to start it, and how you're going to end it. Might be a little bit too much, but we can always take it off as well as we tie it in. So there's always a few kind of point of no returns when you're dubbing. I guess you could always just untie. But we are here to tie flies, and I want this to kind of build up just a little proportionate wise. You know what? I'm going to do one wrap on the back side too. Ooh, I should start doing that. A little bit of extra, so I'll pull it straight down and just get that out of the way. Half wrap around the post just to get it oriented in the correct parking position. And let's do some parachuting. Grab both tips of the feathers, even with an even amount of tension on both of those. Gonna help coax those down. And we will begin to wrap from the top down. And I'm just going to take 3 or 4 turns depending on... Boy, this is pretty webby, pretty big. It's a big fly. It's a size 10. Maybe I'll do one more. Continue my wrap. What do you think? One more? Yeah, we'll do one more. Might as well make this a big thick one. Really help that air. So I'm going to pull my hackles down and lock them in like so. I'm always learning a little bit. This time, when I go to cut my hackle feathers, I parked my thread on the far side of the hook, which will all but ensure that I don't cut it off. And while I have my scissors out, I will trim the post. Just a little bit on top. Kind of work as a strike indicator. Give you a little bit of visibility of where your flies are floating to. And for my whip finish, I keep it below the parachute, and I have to pay a little bit of attention as to not go around the head like I think I just did. I think I might have goofed that up, but let's take a look. Let's take a look. Did I cross wrap? I might have. I might not have, but we'll figure it out. Trim off the thread, and we'll do a little droplet of head cement underneath. We'll let it soak in. This is kind of a well-used bottle of good old Sally Hansen's. So the viscosity, it's a little bit thicker. But it'll soak in there. Alright, let's see how much time we have. Well, I think that'll be it for tonight. So yeah, thank you for joining me. This is a fun little project that I've started doing not too long ago. The Talking Ties, it's a fun little operation. So I think yeah, I think that's going to be it for tonight as far as tying. I'll burn the last few minutes here. I think things turned out all right. So I got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. 8 of them tied up today. So I think that's enough for the box. I might tie a couple more up. Maybe with the black dubbing. I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. So, alright folks, thank you for joining. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, give me the almighty big thumbs up. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your girlfriends, your wives, your boyfriends, your girlfriends. Veterans View is here for you. Tying flies. It's my therapy. Be sure to check out my other videos, general discussion topics, non-fly fishing related. Some good information out there. It's all about sharing the knowledge, because knowledge is power. So, alright folks, thank you for joining me. Happy fishing, happy tying, tight lines, and all that jazz. We'll see you next week. Alright, thank you. Good night.